and welcome back to my channel where I'm going to quickly explain the optional class features provided by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything for the Monk class. If you have not watched the video where I explain what these various optional class features are, I highly recommend that you watch that before continuing on with the rest of this video. It will cover the basics of what types of optional features exist, as well as go over some of the terms that I will use in this video. To help you out, I have provided a link to that video in the description below. The Monk is another class that appears to gain 4 new features, though one has a high level of versatility to it, giving monks a means to change things up if needed. However, as all of these features are considered new features, your Dungeon Master might have an issue with your character choosing to take one of them, so please ensure your DM is okay with your character taking these features before you begin to add them to your character. Additionally, some DMs will hand these features out as part of a quest reward, or will make you swap out an existing feature in order to take one of these features. So everyone is going to be a little bit different on that respect, so just be mindful of that. So let's get on with the various features. The first feature is called Dedicated Weapons, and it is a new feature that becomes available to your character at level 2. Typically, a monk is going to be restricted to the types of weapons that are officially classified as quote-unquote monk weapons. What this feature gives your character the ability to do is make use of simple or martial weapons in place of your typical monk weapon, but there are some restrictions. The first is that your character must be proficient in the weapon you have selected, and it must fall under the simple or martial weapon type. The second restriction is that the weapon must not have the heavy or special property, but it will still allow you to make use of properties such as thrown, versatile, finesse, light, and things like that. And what this means is that your character could make use of short swords, scimitars, long swords, even battle axes, and other kinds of similar weapons, as long as they don't have the keyword heavy or special in their properties list. Your character will have to complete a short or long rest, and then after that rest is complete, focus on the weapon in question with their chi. Once that process is complete, it will now be considered a monk weapon until you decide to make use of this feature again and change the weapon out. And what that means is that if you had decided to focus on a short sword and make that your monk weapon, it will remain your monk weapon. That's it. It's simple. The only time it no longer becomes a monk weapon is if you have chosen to focus on another weapon. Now, this is not something that you need to add to your Actions tab, but it is something you will have to make your DM aware of at the time that you choose to use it, so that they are aware that you have now chosen a short sword as a monk weapon or a longsword as a monk weapon, and that will be your weapon going forward. Once your character reaches level 3, they will now gain access to a new feature called Ki Fueled Attack, or Chi Fueled Attack, depending on how you tend to say that. What this feature does is it gives your character to take an unarmed strike, be it totally unarmed or with use of a monk weapon, as a bonus action if at some point throughout the course of your action turn or any other part of your turn you used key points. However, this feature must be used before the end of your existing turn in order for your character to benefit from it. And to be honest, as it's not something that has a rest requirement or a use limitation to it, I don't see why you would not want to use it. And essentially what this does is if your character at some point had used a key point within that particular turn, you can now take your unarmed attack or your monk weapon and hit something with it, and if you connect, you get to do damage as you normally would. So this isn't something that gets added to your Actions tab as a result, but I still recommend doing so simply because of the fact that you're potentially going to be using this feature quite a bit. So you might just want to simply go to your Actions tab, drag it into place, set it up under the monk group, and this way, when you decide to make use of it, you just simply click on it so that it's part of the history of the actual combat scenario. That way, if someone goes back and wants to review the chat logs to see what actually happened that particular combat round, if you will, or combat scenario, they'll have a complete record of what happened. The next new feature that your character could potentially gain will be available at level 4, and it is called Quickened Healing. However, because this feature does cost an action to make use of, you won't be able to make any attacks, you won't be able to cast any spells if you have that capability, depending on your monastic tradition. So this is going to be your action. To use this, your character is going to have to burn through 2 key points, and then once you've burned through those points, you will then get to roll a martial arts die. If you're not familiar with what that is, I highly recommend you watch my previous videos on where I went over the monk class itself, and in that video I do cover what a martial arts die is. So that you have quick access to that video, I have included the links to it down below. So once the dice have been rolled, the total number that comes up is what you're going to heal your character with, in addition to your character's proficiency bonus. So if you have a proficiency bonus of +2 and you rolled a 4 on your die, then you will be able to heal yourself 6 hit points. To set this up into your actions tab, it is definitely something that you'll want to make use of here. Simply drag and drop it into place, put it under the monk grouping, and then quickly open up the martial arts feature, if you will. And what we're looking for is this particular point right here. At level 4, your character is going to have a martial arts die of 1d4. So in this particular case, the d4 is going to be applicable. As your character levels up, however, that dice increases. And to get into more detail on that, you'll want to watch the previous videos. However, to help simplify the process for us, what we can do is add in a nice convenient little effect here. So I'm going to create a new effect, and it's going to be a heal effect. I'm then going to edit that effect and just simply drag it over to here so that we can see both our table and the die here that we need to look at. I want to click on this and then click on this plus to add a new line, and we can shrink that as we will no longer need it. In this particular case, we're going to make use of a d4. So I'm going to drop a d4 into this box here. That takes care of the martial arts die part of it. Next, I want to scroll through here until I find PROF. And the reason why I want PROF is this particular character happens to have a different proficiency bonus than, say, a level 4 character or a level 5 character. That's going to increase as your character levels. And the last thing you want to do is have to go in here too frequently to modify this. Now, you're still going to have to in order to handle the additional die that you need to add here. But beyond that, you don't want to have to sort of mess around with any other aspect of it. But this effectively completes this particular effect. Now, if we take a look at a combat situation, we can then show you how this works. There is one small correction that I have to make, though, is that it's only going to affect you. It will not affect anybody else, so you want to make sure that targeting is set to self. Now that this is done, what we do is this. I just got hit with something here in reference to the damage that the monk has taken. So I've suffered 15 points of damage. Minimal for someone who happens to be level 17, but you know what? For purposes of demonstration, I'm going to go through and heal. What I want to do is click 2 key points here, and then click on the heal button for it to roll. And then it will apply those healing points to our character. But you might be saying, wait, you just said that your character is level 17. Why you're rolling a d4? Well, you would be correct on that. I was demonstrating what a level 4 character would have to go through and set up. So, let's scroll down and take a look at what a level 17 character is going to get. And that is going to be a 1d10. Alright, so how do we make that modification? Well, what we do is we simply right-click on this dice, and at this position on the radial dial or radial menu that comes up, you will see a clear dice. You just simply click that and it removes the dice. Now I can take a 1d10 and drop it into place, and I now have the correct dice that I need. And as per usual, I just execute the heal after burning through 2 key points, and I've now healed up the damage that I had suffered, making this effect complete. At level 5, is when the last optional feature becomes available to your character, and it is called Focused Aim. And what this feature gives your character the ability to do is potentially turn a miss into a hit. So for example, if your character misses on an attack, and let's show that right away in the combat tracker. I'm going to set this up so that the monk has the action. I'm now, as much as I hate to do this, I always seem to pick on the succubus. I don't know why, but anyway, I'm going to make an attack on this succubus. Okay, let's see. Will I hit or will I miss? That is going to be a hit, but that's because this character has a +10. So let's change tact. Let's actually go to the dragon, who might happen to have a higher hit point. Or armor class, I should say. Well, I still hit, so let's roll till I get a miss. There we go. That is a miss. Now, here is going to be the tricky bit. I can choose to burn up 3 additional key points, and for each point I burn, I can add +2 to this attack roll. So I can literally go, I'm going to spend 1 key point, making that a 19. Does 19 hit, DM? Well, the DM's going to go take a look. 1 second. A 19 hits. So in this particular case, this character would only have to burn through 1 key point. Now I can go and roll my damage as I normally would. Now, some DMs might go, what feature are you using? And generally, Focused Aim is not one you have to add to the Actions tab. You can just tell them that you're using Focused Aim. But to help simplify things, it makes a little bit more sense to actually add this over here. That way you can click this, click your key point to show that you're using it, add your 2 additional points to the attack roll, and see if that hits. If it doesn't hit, you add your second one. If it doesn't hit, you add your second one. But here's the catch. A Dungeon Master most likely is going to ask you how many points are you going to burn. And if you say 1, that's it. But if you say, I'm going to burn 3 points, then you have to burn through 3 points, even if 1 point would have given you the hit. That's how I would play it. And that's how I would expect my players to play it. So you will want to be cognizant of that. But that essentially completes the setup of Focused Aim and essentially an explanation on how you use it. So the last thing that I want to go over is really around what retraining options are available for the monk, because there really wasn't any other than potentially that dedicated weapon one. And essentially what it comes down to is that if you have decided that you want to change out a skill proficiency, a feature option, or even your subclass, you're going to end up falling into the default rules that are provided by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to handle these particular changes. But I've already covered how that is going to work in the video where I cover what optional features are. So you should go watch that particular video if you're curious about that and how it works. And as I've indicated earlier, I have already provided a link in the description below so that you can quickly get to that. So let's move on to what I think about this particular set of changes for the monk. It's nice to see that the monk has finally gained several new features that give it a little bit more variety around what weapons it can actually carry around. Because let's be honest, fists or sickles, or I think there was possibly darts might have been classified in there, they're not really potent weapons when it comes to the amount of damage that they can do. Although, granted, all the additional capabilities that a monk has can really ramp up that damage, but you're still limited on that total. So it's nice to see that you can now have a wider selection of weapons in order to be able to do that. And it's interesting to see that it is one of the few classes that has actually gained nothing but new features rather than simply adjusting or replacing existing ones. But I honestly think these changes work quite well with these particular characters and with the actual set of features that you were given. However, that does bring us to the end of this particular video, and I want to thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.